All right, so as we all know, or as we all should know, there is constantly things going on around us every single day, all around the world. And I kind of want you to think to yourself, how much about these issues do you actually know? You should listen to me because I am going to make you a more informed voter on foreign policy. So the next time you go to the ballot box, you're going to have a more informed vote. Having knowledge on foreign policy is going to make you a better decision maker. And being a better decision maker is going to help you at the ballot box. As author Dr. Philip Amor, a political scientist, said in 2012, the Middle East has long been a conflict zone. The Arab-Israeli conflict has been persistent for decades, and there have been wars over natural resources, ideological causes, and natural and religious cleavages as well. Today, I will be informing about what is happening between Israel and the Palestinian Liberation Organization. First, I will be informing you about the long history of conflict between Israel and Palestine. Second, I will be informing you about the main events from 1948 to 2005. And third, I will be informing you about the main events from 2005 to present-day Gaza conflicts. So first, I'm going to start informing you about the long history of conflict between Israel and Palestine. In 1917, Arthur James Balfour, a British Prime Minister, expressed official British approval of Zionism. And he sent the Balfour Declaration to Lord Rothschild, who was the head of the British Zionist organization. And this letter basically stated British approval for a new Jewish home in Palestine, while not affecting the Palestinians that were already living there. And so when he sent this kind of moved for a new Jewish home to start in the area. And in 1920, Palestine entered a new era when it actually entered the British Mandate period. The British Mandate was a deal between the League of Nations to have the more trusted and experienced countries to take over other countries to take over other countries and handle their state affairs until they were sufficient enough to govern their own countries. After World War I, Syria and Lebanon were given to France. Iran was given to Britain, and a new Palestine was also under British control. So when the new Palestine was under British control, this kind of bunched up together the Palestinians and the Israelis under a single umbrella. And this kind of caused all of them to have to kind of fight against each other. And so after the British Mandate period ended, about 30 years after that, in 1947, the UN Security Council decided to split up Western Palestine into two different states, one for the Israelis and one for the Palestinians. Since it was already mainly Palestine's, about 80% of the land was given to the Palestinians and about 20% was given to the Israelis. And though they sought to make both of the different groups happy, the Palestinians were pretty upset because they felt that most of the land was theirs. And so thus causing the famous 1948 Arab-Israeli War, which kind of set the tone for the conflicts between the two for the next following years. And after the Arab-Israeli War ended, this kind of set for what was to come next. And so this leads me into the next thing I'll be talking to you about, the main events following the Arab-Israeli War up into 2005. And so as you kind of saw on that map there, after the end of the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, Israel actually won more of that land. And so a lot of that land that used to be the Palestinians now was more of the Israelis' land. And this upset the Palestinians because they felt that most of that land was theirs. And so after the end of that, there was some conflicts between the two, and they kind of wanted their land back. And so in 1967, the surrounding powers and countries who were around Israel threatened to annihilate the country. And so Israel retaliated and send in airstrikes over into Syria, Lebanon, and Egypt, thus calling it the Six-Day War. And so it was 6 days of just fighting and airstrikes, and at the conclusion of the Six-Day War, it was kind of a big mess in the Middle East. So the UN Security Council called for the 242 resolution, which was a peace treaty to call for peace in the Middle East. And this was kind of served as a blueprint to help other peace treaties. This served as a blueprint to help other peace treaties in the future, such as the 1979 peace treaty Egypt signed with Israel, and the 1994 peace treaty that Israel also signed with Lebanon. And while all these peace treaties were kind of happening, it made it seem as if the peace was starting to kind of come together within the area, and so a lot of people had high hopes. And this all changed again in the early 2000s when a lot of violence started to erupt in the area again. And after all this violence started to erupt, this is when other countries were starting to get involved, such as the United States. And this leads me into the last and final point I'll be talking about, which is the main events from 2005 up to the main events up to present day Gaza conflicts. So in 2005, Gaza sent in airstrikes into Israel. And to fight back, Israel sent airstrikes back over into Gaza. And Israel decided to pull out of West Bank and the Gaza area to kind of opt for a little bit of peace in the area. So they were the ones who actually stepped forward to kind of resolve some issues. And so after this happened, it seemed again as if things were going a little bit better. And in 2005, Hillary Clinton actually invited over the Israeli and Palestinian leaders and over to the US so that they could meet together and come to some agreeable negotiations. And this was actually known as the peace talks that happened between the Israeli and the Palestinian leaders, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and the Palestinian Authority with the Obama administration. And with these peace talks, they decided that they were going to come to some agreeable conclusions, try to get some more peace, and meet some deadlines. They actually set some deadlines in stone to try to meet. Unfortunately, in 2014, just last year, these peace talks actually ended without coming to a lot of these deadlines and meeting them. And after the peace talks ended, just last year, Hamas, a widely known terrorist organization, sent in airstrikes over into Israel. And again, Israel sent in airstrikes back. And just recently, the Israeli Prime Minister that I had shown you, Benjamin Netanyahu, just got reelected as the Israeli Prime Minister, and this just happened about a month ago. And this is actually very important to us because a lot of the things that we deal with, like foreign policy, it is important for us to know about these things because it is going to help us make better decisions in the future election. And as these peace talks had ended, and these new issues have been arising, the U.S. is now kind of having some problems with the Israelis. But with Netanyahu back in power, it is kind of splitting up the Israelis on who they're kind of siding with, even though a lot of them are from the same political party. And just as Ian Bremmer, a global research professor at NYU, said just a couple weeks ago in an article in Time, he said, with Netanyahu eventually being out of power and Obama ending his term in about 22 months, prospects between the Israelis and the U.S. helping out still seems very grim. So today I have talked to you about what is happening between Israel and the Palestinian Liberation Organization. First, I told you about the long history of conflict between the Palestinians and the Israelis. Second, I told you about the main events happening from 1948 up to 2005. And third, I informed you about the main events from 2005 up to present-day Gaza conflicts. So just as you all know now, hopefully this informed you a lot more about what is happening in that long history of conflict, and just having a little bit of that information is going to help you be a better decision maker when it comes to learning about foreign policy and before the next election. Thank you.